Hello and welcome back to the Dante in a Year podcast. My name is Danny Fitzpatrick. Let's continue with Dante's Purgatorio, Canto 29. Chanting as a lady struck with love, she continued where her words left off. Beati quorum tecti sunt peccata. And as nymphs who walked alone through wooded shade, she, desiring to see, the other to flee the sun, she moved thus counter to the stream, going upon the bank, and I paired myself with her, following her little steps with mine. There were not 100 steps between hers and mine, when the banks turned equally about in a way that bore me toward the east. Nor yet was our way so stretched when the woman turned herself all to me, saying, "My brother, watch and listen." And behold, what luster suddenly shot through the great forest on all sides, such as reminded me vaguely of lightning. But because the lightning rests as it comes, and that, enduring, grew more and more splendid, in my thought I said, "What is this thing?" And a sweet melody came coursing through the luminous air, so that good zeal made me reprove Eve's insolence, who there where the earth and the heavens obeyed, the woman, sole and only then formed, couldn't bear to stand below the veil. Had she stood devoted below it, I should have sensed these ineffable delights at first and for a longer time. While I went among so many first fruits of the eternal pleasure, all suspended, and desirous of yet greater happiness, ahead of us the air below the green limbs was made a flame incensed, and the sweet sound now was heard for song. O sacrosanct Virgin, if ever I've suffered hunger, chills, or vigils for you, reason spurs me to claim your mercy. Now let Helicon come to my verses, and Urania aid me with her chorus to set in verse these things too hard to ponder. A bit farther on, 7 trees of gold forged their apparition in the long tract yet remaining in the midst between us and them. But when I was so near to them that sense could not be deceived, nor could the common object's attitude be lost in the distance, the power that brings reason's discourse to hand appraised them as they were for candelabra, and in the voices of the chant, Hosanna. Overhead the lovely harness was flowing clearer even than the moon through serene midnight in the midst of the month. I turned back, filled with admiration, to the good Virgil, and he replied to me with looks no less charged with wonder. Then I rendered my vision up to the lofty things that moved themselves so slowly toward us that new-wedded spouses would have outstripped them. The lady cried to me, "Why do you burn thus solely in the ardor of the vivid lights, such that you've not looked on those who come after?" Then I saw a people, as if led by them, who came near, dressed in white, and of such whiteness as was never seen below. The water on my left flank was inflamed and rendered up to me my left side, if I looked into it as into another mirror. When I was at such a post on my bank that only the river made us distant, I stopped my steps to see better, and I saw the little flames come forward, leaving behind themselves the painted air, just as brushes drawn along, such that there alone remained distant the 7 lists, all in those colors of which the sun makes the bow and Delia the cincture. These ensigns were well beyond my sight, and, as much as appeared to me, those without stood 10 paces apart. Beneath such lovely heavens as I devise, 24 elders, 2 by 2, came crowned of flowers of light. They all sang, "Benedicta are you among the daughters of Adam, and blessed shall be your beauty to eternity." After the flowers and the other fresh herbs across from me on the other bank were freed of those chosen people, just as light follows light in the sky, 4 animals came after them, each crowned with a frond of green. Each one was plumed of 6 wings, the feathers filled with eyes, and the eyes of Argos, should they live, would be as these. To describe their forms I can spare no more rhymes, reader, for other expense strains me, so much that on this I'm unable to enlarge. But read Ezekiel, who describes them as he saw them come from the frigid place with wind and with cloud and with fire. And as you'll find in his pages, so they were here, save that in the feathers John is with me and departs from him. The space within the 4 of them contained a chariot upon 2 wheels, triumphal, which came drawn on the collar of a griffin. This held aloft the one and the other wing in the midst of the 3 and 3 lists, so that it did no ill by dividing. They ascended so much that they couldn't be seen. As far as it was bird, it had members of gold, and the others white mixed with vermilion. Rome did not with such lovely carriage congratulate Africanus or even Augustus, but that of the sun would be poor compared with it. That of the sun which, straying, was consumed through the prayer of the devout earth when came Jove's arcane justice. 3 ladies came dancing in a gyre at the right wheel, the one so red that she'd hardly be noted in flame. The other was as if her flesh and her bones were fashioned of emerald. The third appeared snow just settled. And now they appeared drawn on by the white, now by the red. And from this one's song the others took their way, whether slow or swift. On the left, 4 made their festival, dressed in purple, after the fashion of one of them who had 3 eyes in her head. After all the drawn-out knot, I saw 2 old ones in disparate habits, but equal in demeanor, and honest and firm. The one showed himself among the familiars of that high Hippocrates, whom nature made for the animals she holds most dear. The other displayed the contrary care, with a sword so lucid and sharp as made me afraid from the far side of the river. Then I saw 4 humble in appearance, and after all an old man came alone, sleeping, with features sharpened. And these 7 were dressed as the first host, but they didn't have the sprays of lilies about their heads, theirs of roses and other vermilion flowers. I'd have sworn from a more distant aspect that all were burning above the eyebrows. And when the chariot was across from me, a roll of thunder was heard, and those worthy people seemed forbidden any further passage, remaining there with the first ensigns. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Dante in a Year podcast. See you next time for Dante's Purgatorio, Canto 30.